The following is a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports.
Hello everybody, and welcome to sort of a bonus update, whatever you want to call it, for the NFL Network. Because if you remember yesterday, I put up my video showing you essentially my thoughts, but mostly going to be very, very wrong predictions of the 2025-2026 season. And I bring this up because of an event that happened today. So if you remember from there, I had the NFC East. I had Washington at 12-5, Philadelphia at 11-6, New York at 9-8, and Dallas at 6-11. And the NFC North, Detroit 13-4, Chicago 10-7, Green Bay 10-7, and Minnesota 6-11. Let's just say that I think I might have predicted the future on the Dallas Cowboys, but not for the fact that, we didn't really know what was going to happen with Micah Parsons. Was they really going to let him go? Was Jerry Jones really going to finally just cut the loose ends on him and basically admit defeat and let him go somewhere else? And with the Green Bay Packers, they're in the toughest division in the NFL with the NFC North, and all bets are off with that division. Detroit's looked pretty good the last couple of years. Chicago showed a lot of promise in the preseason. Minnesota made the playoff last year. I think they'll be the odd man out here, but I had Green Bay in the cut there for the wild card and the playoffs, and I think they will get there. And, of course, today they solidified the possibility of making it back to the playoffs because, lo and behold, they put together a blockbuster trade with the Dallas Cowboys, and holy mother of God. I think you already know about it at this point, but if you have been living under a rock the last couple of hours and have no idea what the hell just happened, let me give you kind of a rundown. So, if you haven't heard, Micah Parsons has been traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. And as soon as he got traded, he already agreed to a 4-year, $188 million contract that includes $120 million fully guaranteed at signing, as well as $136 million in total guarantees, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So now the question is, what did the Dallas Cowboys get for him? Well, the Cowboys got a 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle in Kenny Clark, which, okay, can Kenny Clark also be an edge rusher? Because that's literally what Micah Parsons was. But also the fact that they also got 2 first-round draft picks in 2026 and 2027. So the Cowboys now have 2 first-round picks next year. They join the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns with a pair of first-round picks from the trades they made. But yeah, you look at that, and you essentially, your first thought to yourself is, wow, it really does seem like that the Dallas Cowboys at least got something out of it with the 2 first-round draft picks, and especially considering that they pretty much have put themselves in the position for the Arch Manning sweepstakes. So if they turn out to be as bad as we think they're going to be, yeah, they could probably use those draft picks on Arch Manning if he does come out and becomes the number 1 overall pick. But we'll wait to see what happens on that front. But of course, the big reason I'm talking about this is because of the fact that, well, this has been a continuing battle all off season long. We've had a lot of stories like this so far this year with, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. That came to an end not too long ago with him signing a 1-year deal. Terry McLaurin was in contract negotiations with the Commanders. He was holding out for a little bit, but he did get his contract, 2 years, $96 million. I think it was $96 million, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a 2-year extension. But the big question mark now was with Micah Parsons. Everyone, he is one of the best defensive players in the game. He's one of the reasons why the Dallas Cowboys really are who they are right now, have any kind of memorability to them right now, besides Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, the big question was always going to be, is he going to be suiting up next Thursday when they play the Eagles to kick off the season? And now we know that that's obviously not going to happen. And so now Micah Parsons gets a couple of extra days and will then get to go play against the Detroit Lions next Sunday, assuming that they're actually going to let him do that. But, remember when Khalil Mack got traded to the Bears, and he was there with in the first week of that first week game against the Green Bay Packers, which really this whole trade in particular is very reminiscent to the Khalil Mack trade. Of course, if you don't remember, the Oakland Raiders traded away Toy Boat. They traded Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears, which the Bears used for. The Bears got a second-round pick in 2020, a conditional fifth-round pick in 2020, and a 2019 first-round selection, as well as a 2020 first-round selection. Excuse me, no, I'm sorry, I completely misled you on that. I'm reading it off Wikipedia here because I'm trying to remember it myself. So the Raiders traded him a 2020 second-round pick, which they used on Cole Kmet, and a conditional fifth-round draft pick, which was eventually turned into a 2020 seventh-round pick in Arlington Hambright to the Chicago Bears, and the Raiders got a first-round pick in 2019 and a second first-round pick in 2020. The first one they used on Josh Jacobs, who coincidentally is now with the Green Bay Packers too, so they'll have some fun stories there. The other pick was Damon Arnett. They also got a 2019 sixth-round pick, which was later traded along with Kelechi Osemele to the Jets, and a 2020 third-round pick to Bryan Edwards, which they used on Bryan Edwards. And then shortly after that trade, Max signed a 6-year extension with the Bears worth $141 million, which at the time made him the highest-paid defender in NFL history. And of course, not but 8 days later, he made his debut on Sunday Night Football and actually got a strip sack and recovered a touchdown and had an interception for a touchdown that game. And of course, the Bears went on to be in the playoffs that year, and we won't mention what happened at the end of their first playoff game. I'll just say 2 words: double doink. Of course, they would make the playoffs again a couple years later, but that's one of the big trades that everyone looks at here, and that's my first thought with this in general. When I saw this, was just like, oh, so this is basically the Khalil Mack trade overall, and yeah, it's definitely that. It's also reminiscent of the trade that the Cowboys did way back in the day, when they traded away their best player in Herschel Walker in 1989 to the Minnesota Vikings for a slew of draft picks that eventually led them to have their Super Bowl dynasty that they had in the 90s. One problem, though. We're not living in the 90s anymore, and sadly, Jerry Jones, unfortunately, can't get that through his head, and we'll get to him in a little bit, because he's trying to make this trade seem like the greatest thing ever, but it's not for him in general. But it's great for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, the Green Bay Packers, they are a team that their window is definitely open, and this is definitely a trade that will boost their Super Bowl potential here. And it's reminiscent of what happened when they got Reggie White back in the day. When they brought him in, 3 years later they eventually made their way to they eventually won the Super Bowl in '96. Same thing with Brett Favre. The Packers traded away a first round selection in '92 to acquire Brett Favre. He comes in for a injured Mikowski. I was about to say Ron Jaworski, but no, that's the Eagles. Don Mikowski, and the rest is history. He becomes the quarterback that he was back in the 90s. So there are a lot of similarities to past trades in this whole situation in general. And I think Micah Parsons really does elevate the Packers to another level where I had to think about my predictions and whether or not I should change it or not. I'll tell you that at the end of this video, but let's get to the elephants in the room, and that is, of course, Jerry Jones, who decided after this happened and decided to go on this news conference, which went on like an old man who wouldn't shut up. There's literally one question during this 46-minute news conference where he went off for 11 minutes just rambling and rambling and rambling. Like, I'm not going to show it here for copyright reasons, but you can go ahead and check that out online, but it's definitely out there. But in this news conference, Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones said that he ultimately made the trade to help the team win now. Which is funny, because a decision like this doesn't mean you're trying to win now. It basically means we're trying to win for the future and build up our team for the future. Or it could mean something else. I'll get to that in just a minute too. This was a move to get us successful in the playoffs, Jones said. This was a move to be better on defense, stopping the run. This was a move to, if we get behind, not be run on. And it was a deliberate move, a well-thought-out move to make this happen. You could just tell that Jerry Jones is trying his best to hold it together. He went on this media junket for weeks and weeks and weeks, trying to make it seem like I'm the victim here. Micah Parsons is the one that can't take the hint. Like his agent, like Micah Parsons' agent, what's his name? They keep talking about him. I can't remember who it was, but David. hold on one second. David Mogeta, he's one of the more hostile, not really hostile, but the more heavy-handed free sports agents out there. He knows how to get these big contracts done. I mean, this is the guy that got Deshaun Watson all that guaranteed money in Cleveland, and of course, we saw how that turned out. But he got Nick Bosa the big contract. So if you're a big super professional athlete and you want a big contract, you go straight to David Mogeta. Apparently, Drew Rosenhaus, sorry, your time has passed, my friend. But I mean, that's apparently what it is. I don't know too much about the guy, honestly. I just knew about this from this whole thing that was happening all year long. Because this, like I said, it's been a story that's been developing all year long. But the bottom line is, what makes this so hard to understand for Jerry Jones is that this was all because this largely happened because of him. This largely happened because this dude spent so much time ignoring the sports agent that he was supposed to be talking to. He kept talking about this massive $40 million deal that would have been over 5 years and made him over $200 million. And that was something that happened way back when they were still negotiating with the agent. And the fact that they haven't talked since then, this is not surprising that this went down this way. I mean, this is just the indication that now is the time for Jerry Jones to really consider retiring or moving on, because that ship has sailed with him at this point. I mean, it's been 30 years. This year will be 30 years since the Cowboys made the Super Bowl, and yet they still talk about like it's the last, like it's the greatest. Like it just happened yesterday. And I'm sorry, like I said, this isn't the 1990s anymore. The NFL has changed. And, there are a lot of organizations out there that are doing the right things, and they're being rewarded by going to the Super Bowl. Like the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that we're kind of hating them on right now, but here's the thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have enough salary. They are working the salary cap very well, and that's why they've been so successful in the Super Bowl. The last couple of years. That's why they've been to the Super Bowl 4 of the last 6 times, I think. Let's see, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, 2024. Yeah, 6 times over the last. Hold on a second. Yeah, the last 6 years they've been in the Super Bowl. The only time they didn't make it was the year when Cincinnati beat them in 2021. But Philadelphia's been to the Super Bowl more in the last decade than they have ever been. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they've won 2 of the last Super Bowls in the last 7 years, and it's mostly been with what Howie Roseman has been able to do with them. Like, really, that's what it essentially has come down to. It's just like there are all these teams out there that are doing much better jobs at handling the salary cap, handling everything in terms of getting their shit together so they can go and win a championship. Even the teams that haven't made it to the Super Bowl, but you can tell are trying, like the Detroit Lions. They've been very good with how they've been handling contracts. I mean, the Washington Commanders. Look at what they've done in the last couple of years. Within the first year of Jaden Daniels coming in, they were this close to making it to the Super Bowl in their first year, but they couldn't get past the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's another thing with the Dallas Cowboys. It's just like you're a lost cause right now because you're in a division with the defending 2 NFC champs, the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, which I still have the Washington Commanders slightly ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a 2-man race for that division overall. I think the New York Giants are going to be better than most people expect, but maybe not to the point where they'll be up there with the Commanders and the Eagles fighting for the division. But knowing how we haven't had a division winner that's been the same 2 years in a row for the last, 23 years, I think it is, 22, 23 years, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington wins the division. But the Dallas Cowboys, I think right now this is their last. This is the signs of that window you had years ago is shut down. It's basically just like get through this. Hopefully you get a high draft pick, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in April when you're here in Pittsburgh for the draft and all that. But then the Green Bay Packers. What does that leave them? Like, it's very interesting what I have for the Green Bay Packers, because I have them at 10-7, and I have them in the playoffs, but I have them third behind the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. Do I think this helps elevate them to another level in my picks? Yes, but not exactly. I'm not ready to fully say that this move is the thing that's going to push the Packers to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to put them in position to be in a much higher record than I have them at. I think they can beat the Chicago Bears and actually be right up there with the Detroit Lions. But I mean, it really is going to depend on how quickly can you get Micah Parsons into your system, and how can this turn out? Like I think there's a lot of possibilities for the Packers to make some noise in the division, in this tough division as a whole. And like I said, it's probably the toughest division this season, because you have all these four teams you have three teams that made the playoffs last year: Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota. Excuse me. And then you have Chicago, who's looked pretty good in the preseason. Ben Johnson, this is a chance to prove to everybody that, hey, here's why I had success in Detroit, and now I'm going to put this into my head coaching abilities and give Caleb Williams the chance to succeed that I think everybody wants to see him in. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out. Now, I would be willing to move my prediction of Green Bay up a little bit so that they are above Chicago, maybe at around 11-12 wins. I'm not really convinced yet to give them the division just yet. I think Detroit, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what Dan Campbell can do without his two offensive and defensive coordinators who are now coaching their own teams, and we'll see what happens there. I do think Green Bay will be better than what I had initially predicted for them. Maybe an extra win or two, probably 11-12 wins overall. And we'll wait to see what happens on that front. I think they do have a better opportunity now with Micah Parsons there as their new top defensive player that they have there right now. And, it gives times for these new rookies like Lucas Van Ness and all that, Rashawn Gary, a chance to, take your time, because look at who we have here. And you've got him for the next 5 years, because remember, he's still on that initial contract at this point in time with the extension that they gave him, the fifth-year option that they gave him. So they picked up the fifth-year option, and they get 4 years of him later on down the road. So you have him until the end of the decade, pretty much. But yeah, overall, it's a big win for the Green Bay Packers, a major loss for the Dallas Cowboys, and this might be the nail in the coffin for Jerry Jones at this point. Just the way he's been handling this team the last couple of years, the all-in season he had for last year, and the biggest move they made was trading for Jonathan Mingo from the Panthers midway through the season, when they could have had Derrick Henry there, and look at what Derrick Henry's now doing in Baltimore. And now this whole thing right here with they got getting rid of Mike McCarthy and waiting until far too late to find their next head coach, and then getting rid of their top defensive player. I mean, this is looking pretty bad for Dallas. But hey, whenever Dallas fails, it's always hilarious. And if you need more indication of that, I would like to ask you to go find Tom Grossi and Scooter Magruder's reaction to the news. Seriously, if you have not seen that video of Tom Grossi urinating tree, 5 Points vids, and Scooter Magruder doing their show as the news is breaking, it's glorious. Watching Scooter Magruder being like, I never want to watch the NFL again, which is pretty much what I thought when I saw the Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to watch the NFL anymore. And then you hear Tom Grossi so excited that he's coming to the Packers, like he's turning into Little John, like he's going like, what? Like I'm just waiting for him to go like, what? Okay, get Gronk, like that type of thing. But it's a funny video. It's definitely worth looking out there. But yeah, that's my quick thoughts on the Micah Parsons move right there. And I'm doing this now because I don't have a regular Reviewing Network Live episode coming up this week for the Space Jam commentary I'm doing on Sunday. And then, of course, next week, the NFL Networks, we do the regular Week 1 predictions with the Power Rankings and all that. Power Rankings, Week 1 predictions. So I wanted to get this out of the way now. But there you go. That's a little update on this. So if you want to see the last NFL Network video I did, go ahead and check out the link in the corner. Check out some of the other videos as well. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for a new episode of the NFL Network, assuming that no other big news stories in the world of sports break. So, yeah. So, by the way, suck on that, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. The Green Bay Packers basically just said, yeah, fuck your engagement. This is the story of the week. Plain and simple.
The following has been a presentation of the Reviewing Network Sports.